everybody, this is the Wild Ass Podcast, and I am your host, Wild Ass Craig. This is episode 42, and in this episode, I get to introduce all of you to Jason Setzer, known across all of the socials and YouTube as Setzer Pendants. You may have heard of him before. We've connected briefly in person, through social media, and of course by phone. As one of those guys that just seems like an old friend, let me introduce him to all of you now. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Man, that was a killer intro. I was kind of looking around like, he's talking about me.
So
yeah, talking about me.
Yeah. So for those of you now watching on YouTube, this is this guy's fault. So Jason, thank you very much. We spent a little while getting this dialed in. You built the graphic for me, and here we are. Look at that.
It's awesome. I think it looks great.
Yeah, this platform has intimidated me for a long time now, and without you helping me out, I would still be intimidated, and we would just be a normal audio podcast. So if you're listening on audio over on Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever, you can now find this on YouTube. Just find the Wild Ass page, and we'll figure out how to get it up there next. That's the next problem, right?
You know, I know there's also a way you can do it on Spotify. You can have a video podcast on Spotify now.
I remember seeing that. So that's the Spotify.
It's not exactly plug and play, but I mean, there's a way to do it. So
okay, well, very cool. So thank you very much for coming on the show. I was trying to think of this because we really haven't known each other that long. I heard of you through Denver's podcast, the V Twin Life, who's been instrumental in helping me get this podcast up and running. That's how I first heard of you. But I would have to say that as far as our friendship goes, it's just a product of what social media was actually designed to do, and that's bring people together.
Yeah, who would have thunk it, right? I mean, you know, people actually getting together for the intent. You know, it's not very often that I get to actually meet the people I meet on social media in real life. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm glad that we've met.
Yeah, same. I think we had our paths were dangerously close to crossing, I believe, last June, but I don't know that we actually met. It seems like we had that conversation and we weren't really sure.
Yeah, so that was at the Hoka Hay in 2022. We were in the same. I was there, and I'd met a few people, a few riders, and we never actually met. But I was there, and I actually got pictures of your bike, and but our paths never actually crossed there. Right? So that was near hit.
Yeah, nearly. But it's cool, and I mentioned the fact that, you know, kind of the old friend vibes, and I don't know, you know, I can tell you feel the same way because we've been talking on the phone now for a couple months maybe, but it's literally like just conversations that old friends have, and it's really cool. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, same. It's nice. You know, it's you know, I'm a pretty open book, but you know, I think I even remember saying a couple times, you know, like I get done explaining some stuff to you. I was like, man, I don't know why I shared that with you, but it just feels like, you know, I can talk to you about anything. So
yeah, no, that's good. Well, and here we are, but we won't talk about anything because this is a public forum, and some things need to not be here.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. One of the things that surprises me, because you're a motorcycle guy, and I don't know why this surprises me so much, maybe because we don't see enough of it, but you're into personal self-development, you know, that kind of stuff, which was maybe another connection that we have. It seems like a lot of people, in the people I've known historically, have that's not really their thing. Now, of course, as I do it more and more and more, I find more people, but this was just a connection, right?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. It's like I forget exactly what we were talking about, but I remember throwing this out there because, you know, like if you talk to somebody who's not into any kind of personal development or any kind of that, right? You don't want to come across, or at least I don't want to come across like preachy or something like that. You know, it's like, I'm not telling you need to do better for you. I'm just saying like, okay, look, you know, there's some things in my life that I've greatly benefited from. You know, let me just give you a little example, right? And then so I forget what it was that I was telling you about, but like right away you were like, so it sounds like you're into personal development, you know? And I was like, Yeah, yeah. So I'm in friendly waters here. That's good, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So when I call you a dork and a nerd, it's really just the same thing. It's all good.
yeah, it's all good, man.
So one of the things with my podcast, I try to do a little digging, kind of try to find something, that we can talk about or something, some interesting fact. And when we Googled your name, the first thing that popped up was quite concerning. And it was a
Uh-oh.
headline. Yeah. A headline that read Clay County Sheriff's Office disrupts drug trafficking operation between Florida and California. It goes on to read Jason Setzer, 46 of Orange Park, and Alvin Mercado, 38, blah, blah, were both arrested in connection with the suspected drug trafficking operation. This happened in
Mhm.
22. So if that happened in 22 at 46, how old are you now? And
So
and should we
here's the
be
thing.
like, is this the end?
No, 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 no. So here's the thing,
Tell
and
your
this
please.
this is where this is where I've got everybody fooled. Most people that go into witness protection change their name.
Oh,
So I'm just out here in the open, like I'm Jason Setzer. So
yeah. Who's going to believe
and
that?
yeah, who is going to believe that? So it hasn't been a problem yet.
Good, good. I searched
No,
that and I'm like,
yeah, there's
actually,
a
yeah, go ahead.
there the funny thing about my name, right? So ever since God, I'm going to age myself here a little bit. And by the way, I'm 40. What year are we in? We're in 24. I'm 44. I'll be 45 this year in August.
Okay.
Um,
So it wasn't you,
no, 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 no.
or they changed your
Um,
age.
so the funny thing is like I remember whenever the internet started to become a thing, you know, when I became more interested in it, one of the first things that I did was search my name, and then so I found out that and this was back then. Of course, now I'm a drug trafficker in California, but back then, um, there's a librarian in North Carolina, and he was like he's a little more nerdy than I am, and he bought up he registered for all the free shit under Jason Setzer, and then so I was like, this dude, and I'm like, he's not even doing anything with his MySpace. What the hell, or whatever the accounts were. But anyways, it's now there's just so much stuff it doesn't really matter, you know. And
That's
so yeah,
funny.
now I go by Setzer Pendants or now Iceman. So it's all doesn't really matter anymore.
So that's coming up. I have that as a question. Where'd the name Iceman come from?
So last summer we did I was riding last summer. I got invited from Riot with the Mile Monsters to do a little bit of documenting of their ride around Texas. They're
Okay.
taking Gavin. For those of y'all that don't know, Gavin is a hero for the Mile Monsters, and the monsters ride for the heroes. So they took Gavin to every Harley dealership in the state of Texas, and that was 8 days, 3,700 miles, and it was over 100-degree heat. And then so I got invited along, and then I quickly was just like, well, I'm gonna bring my son too, and then so my son's really into photography, and I'm into videography. It's kind of a really funny story how all this came to be, but um, we're riding all across Texas, and I had a cooler on my bike that I was icing stuff down with, right? And so Gavin, he's pretty standoffish to people that he doesn't know. He's pretty bashful, right? And
Yep.
then so it was like the first couple days he didn't even know I was there, or he put on a good show like he didn't even know who I was, right? And so I guess it was day 2 or day 3. I was I had these skull caps that we were putting on underneath our helmets, and then so he also had a cooling vest, and one of the biggest things, one of our biggest concerns was making sure that he wasn't going to get too overheated. And so I was always swapping out some stuff for him out of my cooler. I'd get him the cooling vest, or I'd get him those skull caps that were sitting in ice water, and then so I think it was like day 2 or 3. He started calling me Iceman, and so it just kind of stuck from there. And so Riot and Twister and Hopper, everybody started referring to me as Iceman. So here I am.
That's
So
awesome.
now I got to take a cooler with me everywhere I go.
Now you got to live up to the name.
Yeah. So, but no, that was an awesome time. I was signed up to do some Mile Monster stuff. I did the Monster 100 that year. Um, but along that ride, I got a really unique opportunity to get front row seat to what the Mile Monsters is all about, and even to be welcome to the organization. So I feel like I got my, I don't know what I would have got, my monster claws or whatever monsters get whenever they mature. I feel like I got those on that trip. So
Nice.
it was a
We
great
are going
experience.
to, I bet we are going to talk more about that trip coming up. For the
Okay.
viewers, now I can say viewers, right? For the listeners that don't know who you are, you're currently in Texas, right? Is this where you grew up? And
Yeah.
when did you move from Florida? When you got out of
So
jail, or
I went to high school, or I went to school in Lavernia, which is a little podunk town. Well, it used to be a little podunk town, really close to San Antonio. And whenever I got out of high school, and even every summer during my high school years, I worked for my dad, and we built self-storage buildings all over the United States. And so when I got out of high school, I was on the road with him, and we traveled a lot, and lived out of motels, and it was just construction life. That's all I knew. And I did that for a while ish. And it didn't take me long to realize I didn't want to be in the heat in the summer and the cold in the winter. So I was like, I got to figure something out. So I made my way into the drafting world, and then I actually started drawing blueprints for the same buildings that I was building. And so it was really beneficial because all the people at the time that were doing drafting for those buildings, the buildings are really niche. They're not framed like traditional framing. They have their own framing style, their own system. They use their own. It's just a very niche down thing, right? And so I knew these buildings inside and out because I was building them, and nobody else had that kind of experience whenever they were drawing them. So
sure.
what computers and all of that really wasn't my forte. I wasn't my thing. And then I got a job as a drafting a drafter for these buildings. And I just, square peg in a round hole, man. I did not belong in an office. I didn't belong with office people, you know, but I was out of the heat, so that was a good thing. I knew how to turn the computer on, and then I had a lot of questions after that. But they were really after my field experience, so they were willing to put up with me, and I give me some on the job training. At the time, I went to ITT Technical Institute to supplement my learning, and I was there for a couple of semesters, or not even I was there for one full semester, and I bounced, I quit, and then I I was just full time at doing what I do. So yeah, I moved back, or I was I'd lived in different states with some precarious people for a little while, and once I kind of settled down, you know life brought me back to San Antonio, or back to Texas. So came home, settled down, whatever that means. And I had my son when I was really really young. I had Chase whenever I was 20. So uh I didn't really do, there was a whole lot of mischief that I missed out on, that I was definitely headed towards, because you try to be responsible, right? So anyway, so I took up the family life, and as much as I could. And yeah, I worked for a drafting company that drafts specifically for self storage, and then from there I went to another company as an operations manager, and then from there I went out on my own in 2007, started my own business, and I didn't look back. And of course, along the way, I've done a lot of entrepreneurial type of things. I've always had little side gigs and stuff like that. But my bread and butter company is River City Design, which I started in '07.
Okay. And is that what you're doing now still? Same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the core of all of the stuff that I get to do, all the riding that I get to do, and all of the other interests and podcasts, and and stuff and hobbies is all off the backbone of River City Design. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you talk about all the riding. So let's get into that. How did you get into riding, like in the beginning? When were you first introduced to motorcycles? When did you, what was your
Sure.
first bike? How did you progress all the way to the bike you have now, or bikes?
Okay. So I got my first bike when I was 4 years old. It was a little 50, a little Suzuki 50.
Yeah.
And I'm I couldn't ride a bicycle. We lived in the country. We lived in sand, right? And then so there was this little square area where we parked that was concrete. And so like that was the only place that I could ride a bike. It had training wheels, and
Yeah.
I was always going off the damn thing. I couldn't ride it. And then so my dad comes home. My dad was a pretty ornery redneck type of fella. So he comes home and he's like, "I got something for you." And so I look out I remember this to this day.
Really?
I can remember looking out of the front patio window. The house that we lived in was it was eventually an 8,000 square foot house, but it started off as just a 2,000 square foot house on stilts. And so I remember looking out at the patio into the back of my dad's truck, and I remember seeing this motorcycle, and I was like, I'd never seen something so cool in my whole life. I was like, wow, what is that? I didn't know anything about them. I didn't even watch TV that had people ride. I didn't know jack about them. And so, but it's so cool, I mean, how could you not think that was cool? So, we go downstairs, and I remember my dad pops the tailgate on his truck, and it like with one hand, he pulls that damn thing out, and puts it on the ground. And then so, he's putting gas in it, and it's got a kickstart. So he's got his hand on the kickstart, and he's, getting
Yeah.
it started. Just an ornery dude. And then so it started up, and he's giving it gas. He's like, "Well, get on it," and I'm shorts, no shoes, no shirt, no helmet, no nothing. And I'm like, I love this thing already. So I get on this bike, and there was just 3 gears, and it didn't have a clutch, right? So you sit on
Yep.
it, and you start to give it gas, and you start to go. So I just, as probably everybody who's seen a kid get on a bike for the first time experience, I just gave it hell, and then wrapped it out in first gear is pretty fast, and then I couldn't I didn't sound right. I knew something wasn't right, but it was just like I was going, and it was awesome, and it was further than I'd ever been on a bicycle, and I was like, "Yeah, awesome." And then I hit a tree, and I fell over, and the bike landed on my leg, and it branded me. And I had that brand on my leg until I was like, I don't know, 18, and I was 4 years old when I got the brand. And over the years, you could just see the grill marks that were on the side of my calf, and you could just see them getting further and further apart as I was getting older. It was kind of neat.
Huh.
But so my dad loved to repeat things that I used to say, because he used to say some weird shit. So I got up, of course, didn't cry or anything. I got up and I said, "Dad, I think that might just be too much damn bike for me." He got a kick out of that. And eventually, I did get the hang of it, and I don't need training wheels anymore. But I've been on a motorcycle ever since. I had as I grew up, I got all of the major CCs, right? I got the 50, 80, 100. We had one that was bored out to, I think, a 120 or something. And then I think around that CC is whenever my brother, who's 9 years older than me, he was on dirt bikes too. And he was always wheeling and dealing and doing stuff. And so he traded one of his bikes for a bike for me. And that was the first bike that I had ever got that had a clutch. And man, you want to talk about feeling like big shit. I'm like, I'm big stuff, man. I ride a motorcycle that has a clutch. I got to shift gears, man. There's not a lot of people out there that can do that. I'm just living high, and like, I love this life, right? So, we had video games. We lived a pretty blessed life, whenever I was younger. But, man, we were always outside, and, it was either, getting dirty, building, you know, mud hole swimming pools, or riding the bikes, riding the motorcycles. And, we lived on 5 acres, and, we'd ride down to another subdivision. We'd be gone all day and come back, and, we'd leave with money for gas and hit this little gas station up on the, you could see us riding in the ditch on the side of the road, you know, because we weren't allowed, they weren't street legal. You can't be on the road, right? So, but yeah, I mean, that was a lot of my childhood, you know, just riding dirt bikes and breaking shit and figuring out how to make it work again so you don't get in trouble, you know. So
Yeah.
I did that, and then whenever I graduated high school, I hit the road, and I didn't actually quote unquote own a bike. We still had dirt bikes and stuff like that at house, but I mean, I was always on the road anyway, so I didn't really have, I didn't even have, like my own personal vehicle was a 72 Nova, and it was parked at the house. You know what I mean? So it was like, I had a work truck, and that's what I got to drive. Right. So there was a good little stretch there where I didn't own a motorcycle. But whenever, let's see here, my son was born in 2000. And so he got his first bike when he was 3. And so a little bit after that is whenever I started getting back into riding bikes. I had a couple of like hand me bikes, like a I don't even know what the hell they were. So the old Gold Wings back in the 80s, F's, I don't know what it was, but it was a 4-cylinder motor, and it was really quick for the bike for bikes at the time. So I rode
Yep.
that. Like, we took all the fairings off of it. We took all the Goldwing stuff off of it and just rode like the bare bike. So I rode that for a while, and then I was doing side work, and this time I was drafting, and so I was doing side work, and I was like, I'm gonna buy me a bike. I miss riding, and so I bought me a Honda Shadow 1100, and I love that bike. It was
Nice
the first
bike.
bike. It was the first bike that I went out of town on. I went and met my friend, a real good friend of mine. I met in Seminole, Texas. I rode out there, and then from there, he was going through a divorce, and his dad was going up there and actually dropping off a bike, and so that he had one to ride, and his dad's always had bikes, and so I rode up there with him, and then from there we rode out to White Sands, New Mexico, and we did some out in Rito, so we did some riding and stuff like that, and it just took a hold of me, man. It's like, wow, you get on the road, and it's like, you know, uh, you just everything just goes away. You hear all the sounds that you hear when you're on a motorcycle, you're on the road or whatever, and there's cars and traffic or whatever, but I mean, it's just like, and then you get it, we've spent so many times, so many hours, and I was thinking about this the other day. My brother and we do a lot of riding together to this day, and I was thinking the other day, the amount of hours collectively that we have spent shooting the shit at gas stations and truck stops, is probably more than we've spent in our childhood talking. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like, it's just like a different world. I don't know. Words fail me trying to explain it, but it grabbed me, and I was like, I love this. This is awesome. And then so I got I don't know. I got really into my business, and uh I I didn't get a chance to do a lot of riding, and this is about 2007 or so. I was just really focused in on my business, and really trying to make that work and everything. And I had that bike, and I don't know. I didn't do nowhere near a whole lot of riding. I mean, maybe a few thousand miles a year or something like that. I did that one big trip to Seminole. Now I don't know how many miles. I don't remember how long that was, but it was 5 or so days. 5 or 6 or 7 days or something like that. And then it was just like, it was so awesome. And then it was so long ago. It was so long again before I got to experience that. You know, and then so fast forward, built a successful business. My brother, he's looking at getting a new. My brother's always had Harleys, and so he's looking to get a new bike. And he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting another Harley, and I really don't need 2 Harleys. I got to know, I got this one." And I was like, "I'll buy it," And he's like, "Well, I'm not trying to give you my." I said, "Dude, just shut up. Just how much do I need to write you a check for?" You know. And then so I bought that bike, and then he bought a 19 Electra Glide, and then he and I went with our wives. We went riding out to Missoula, Missouri, and then not Missoula,
Montana?
Brant. No,
Oh,
not
Branson?
Missoula.
Yep.
Yeah, Branson. Missoula is where I met Denver. But we rode out to Branson. It was about a 4,000-mile trip over 6-ish days or so. You know, it was like every 2 days we got to a new place to sit, a new place to motel and Airbnb or whatever. They got condos and stuff like that. So, I was like, and then it was just like a big slap in the face. You're like, oh yeah, yeah. You know, it was really ironic how that all came back around, because at that point in my life I was really, you know, was struggling with a lot of things, depression, and just, you know, just wasn't happy, and you know, there's just a lot of weird things, not weird things, just a lot of life things, you know. And then so it was just like breathing a breath of fresh air, you know, just being out, and it was 110 degrees. I mean, it was stupid hot, and you know, sunburn and shit and bike problems, but I mean, all that aside, it was just like, oh yeah, this is this just feels right, you know. So from there I bought I wasn't trying to buy a bike. I was really happy with that '04. You know, it was paid for, and it ran, and it was, you know, 5 speed 88, you know, it was like, oh, this is great, you know. And so uh I was like, if I did want a bike though, this is probably what I would get. And then so me and my brother, we were collecting, we were going over, we were doing all the Harleys to collect poker chips. You know, we'd ride to them to collect the chips.
Hmm.
And so, we were at Waco Harley, and my brother, I'm outside, I'm getting all my stuff, you know, whatever. My brother goes in, he comes out and he goes, "Hey, they got your bike inside." I said, "Shut up, man. I'm not, you know, don't mess with me like that." And he's like, No. This is what you said. You said Road Glide Limited, 131. You know, he starts naming off all the stuff, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" You know. So I went in there, and I'm like, "How much is it going to be?" so so I bought that bike. That's my limited, the 2020 limited that I got, and then I put I got about 76,000 miles on it, and they're all fun miles, man. I didn't use it to commute. I just, every time I got on it, it was going to be for fun. And so the first thing I did was I went to Sturgis in 2020 during COVID, and it was and I went solo. I was supposed to go with 2 other people, my brother included, and it just didn't work out. And so I rode up there solo, and I didn't have any, you know, I had a motel up there, right? But I didn't really have any kind of destination, or I didn't have any kind of plan or anything like that. Destination, yeah. I mean, but I didn't have any kind of plan. And so being solo, right? It was just like, wow, this is a whole different element. You know what I mean? So like before, it was like always I had somewhere to be, or you know, I might have done an out of, you know, overnight trip or overnight stay somewhere or whatever. But this type of travel, you know, with nobody's expecting you, and you really don't have to be anywhere, is is very liberating. You know, it's an amazing feeling. And so I I I really started to think, I feel like I really started to understand why there's so many bikers that hit the road that ride solo. You know, riding in big groups isn't my thing. I've done it. Um, I'm always worried about the other person's riding ability, you know, and that's not to put anybody down, but you know, if I and I ride like an asshole. So if I ride like an asshole and you ride really conservative, and I'm in the middle of all these conservative riders, you know, I'm probably going to cause a problem, right? So I don't do groups really well, unless, you know, I try to be in the back or in the front, or you know, somewhere with an easy escape route. You know what I mean? But but yeah, I mean, I dig the whole, you know, solo riding. You know, it's like um it kind of forces you to be in the moment. You know, it forces you to um just really take in what's happening, you know. And at this point in my life, I really need that. You know, there was so much stuff that I had that's been on autopilot, and you know, it's just like, you know, whenever I get on a bike, it's just, oh, you know. And then so we did that tour, and then you know, along the way, they had the new 2023 CVOs come out. And then so we were at a dealership that had one, the Road Glide, And I remember looking over at it and I was like, I remember seeing the pictures online and I was like, I was not impressed. I was like, that thing looks ridiculous. The Street Glide actually I thought looked a whole lot better, And then but I'm fixed chairing for life, man. It's putting down miles, and I'm like, I'm not going to go back to a handlebar mounted fairing. Anyway, so we were somewhere, and then Twister, she was poking at me, and then Riot's poking at me, and they're like, "Hey, you gonna get a new CVO or what?" And I'm like, "No, there's no way in hell I'm gonna go buy a brand." I was like, "There's nothing wrong." I mean, there's plenty wrong with my bike, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with my bike. I'm like, "Oh no, no way, no way, no way, no way." So September, I bought a new CVO. So
Yeah.
I got a TV, and I kept my old bike, right? So I have we are the proud owners of two bikes in our family, two Harleys, and by we I mean me. My
Yeah.
brother, my son, my son's on a 2016 Road Glide Limited, and he's taken everything. He's Dynabrode his freaking bagger. So anyway,
Kids.
so, yeah. So anyways, yeah, that was probably a little longer than you was anticipating, but yeah, that was the front to end from where I started to where I am.
No, it's
So
perfect. I don't even have to do any work here. All I got to do is sit and listen. um, so we got through all your bikes. We know what you're doing for a career. One thing that really interests me about you is you're outside of the motorcycle world a little bit with your podcasts that you have. We don't have to go into detail, but share with us what you do there, because I think those are as amazing as everything else. They're very cool. So talk about those just a little bit. It's two of them, right?
sure, three of them. So
Three.
I have my own podcast that is it's branded local business. It started off as local talent, and then just because I'm weird and I do shit to make things harder on myself, it went from one podcast to three podcasts kind of in a hurry. And so the local talent is what it was originally billed as. It was originally branded local talent was the name of the podcast. And then so now local talent is a network of three podcasts, and the whole idea is, of course, local, right? And so local business is about local entrepreneurship, and so that's my show. Then there's local politics, and then there's local health. Local politics is with my friend and co-host, I'm his co-host for everything to do with all the local politics. He's equal about pissing everybody off. So he's a great host because he doesn't mind getting in anybody's crap. But he's really passionate about politics more so than I am, and you know it's a real I think it's a really positive service for the community because we bring in all the candidates for whatever's being whatever positions being up for election. We bring the candidates in, do a Q&A. It's really I think it's a really valuable service for the community. And then the local health, same kind of, there's a local nurse practitioner, my doctor, who is a nurse practitioner. We bring him in here and we try to get that show down to 30 minutes, but I'm a nerd about everything. I got to know how things work. I got to know all the questions. I got to know all the answers to all the questions. Right. So like, we bring him in here and we talk about testosterone or we talk about hair loss, whatever. And I'm just like, tell me more. All right. So exactly why do the follicles react to this, And so it's like, that's just how I roll. And then my show is local business. And so I'm interviewing business owners that are in the community, not your Bill Gates, not your, Elon Musk, not the people that, people see those guys on the news. I don't think that they can identify with those guys. They're like, oh, these billionaires aren't,
Yeah.
one, they're not small business and they're whatever. Right. But I mean, the people that you're doing business with, you go into a local franchise, restaurant, tropical smoothie, or you're going across the street and you're whatever it is, those guys, you know, is who I'm having on the show. You know what I mean? Your local counselors and business coaches and mechanics, these types of guys or these types of business owners or who are like having on the show because they have real world stuff about what's going on. You know what I mean? Like this is, this type of marketing worked for me. This type of marketing didn't work for me. This is social media is how we use it. This is how we don't use it. We did use a payroll company. We used a payroll person. We got shafted. We got stolen from. We got, the city shut us down. All the questions and all the stuff that happens, in everyday business that you don't really hear about. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
kind of makes a difference. So it's been a lot of fun to talk through those types of experiences. I'm a big, huge, firm believer in entrepreneurship. Everybody should have a business. You know what I mean? And I have employees, right? So I understand what I'm saying, right? If everybody had a business, then you wouldn't have any employees. Well, that's not 100% true, but there's really a lot of value in having your own business, and it that value isn't necessarily tied to money. It can be, but it's not necessarily, always dollars and cents. Whenever I started my business, I was working from the house. I was at home when the kids went to school. I was at home when the kids got back from school. I couldn't put a price on that. That meant the world to me. So the older I get, the less money makes a decision in my decision making process. So, but yeah, those are my podcasts. They are we're on a little hiatus through the holidays. We're about to start ramping back up, and so we built out this studio, and Chase, my son, he's on board. He does the editing now, and he's going to be the one pulling all the levers and pushing the buttons once we get that thing rolling again. So I'm excited
Nice.
about that.
That's cool. When you
Mhm.
talk to these local businesses, this just pops in my head, and you have this accounting firm or this QuickBooks
Mhm.
place or this so-called, service, we'll call it. And if I have a company and I get screwed, do I say that company's name on your show so other people are warned, or do you kind of keep it somewhat, PC?
So I try. Okay. So yeah, yes and no, right? So I try not to make anybody look like an asshole, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
our shows are recorded and edited, they're not live, right? And so what happens is our sh- our recordings are about 3 hours, and then
Okay.
we condense that down to an hour. And so there's a spot in the middle where I do this thing called the lightning round. And I ask 5 questions, just random stupid questions that don't have anything to do with anything, just to kind of change things up. So from the beginning of the show to the lightning round, it's kind of an intro, who you are, what you do, who you do it to, how you got here, blah blah blah. And then we kind of get into some fundamental stuff about business and things like that. And then we do the lightning round. And then after the lightning round, people seem to be kind of loosened up, and they kind of forget that they're doing a show. And then you can kind of move forward. It's
Yeah.
pretty neat how that came about. But anyway, the whole shows, like we sit in here for 3 hours. And so if somebody is railing on another business, another local business, and it's happened, um, uh, one, so far, I've never had to leave the person that got railed. I've never had to leave that part of the information in the show.
Sure.
Um, but it's a fact of life. There's some shysters out there, and I'm not going to be the one that says this person is a shyster, even if they, bamboozled me personally. That's just not what my show is geared towards. It's geared more towards how to succeed. What makes
Yeah.
these people succeed,
Oh, that's good.
not necessarily calling out, all the people that suck, because there's plenty of them. There's plenty of people, there's plenty of shysters out there, so
Well,
I hope that
and the complainers are the ones that are the easiest to start spewing things out, right? So that was one thing I had to think of before I started this podcast is we're not going to bash things, other
right.
products, whatever. And I just was curious how you handle that on your show. Having 3 hours and editing it down,
Yeah.
that's
So,
pretty
I mean,
awesome.
there's been some stuff where it's come up, it's like, hey, this so and so that's known in the community, they're just a crook, and so we don't focus on that. We focus on what has made your business successful. You know what I mean? And staying away from people like that. Okay, what else?
Yeah.
And so, um, uh, but yeah, there was something I was going to say. Thought escapes me. But no, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fun talking to other business owners too. Find out
Yeah.
what's going on and how things are being handled, and it gives you a lot of perspective on your own. Talking about your lightning round questions,
Mhm.
I do 5 questions at the end. Maybe we need to exchange lists so we each have some new questions when this is all over.
Sure.
I
I
can
got
send you
so,
mine.
I'll tell you what I do, and I've kind of it's been kind of a it's been fun for me. Um, I buy games. I buy card games that
Okay.
are like truth or dare type of stuff. And then so what I'll do is I just pull 5 cards out of the deck, and then once they've answered them, I put them off in the discard pile so they don't get asked again on another show. And then once that deck is over, then I go to a new game. And so I see them, and it's not necessarily just games, but like there's this one that's specifically called Pod Decks, and it is no way in hell I could use it as it was intended. It was intended to have a show. The subject of the show was based around the card that you draw. Now, there's no way I could do that. But the cards that you draw, they're really interesting in, like just, hey, would you rather be the best person on the worst team or the worst player on the best team? Things like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so it's pretty good conversational stuff. But you see that stuff on, at least I do, probably because Google and Facebook and Instagram, they all know how I spend money. And so they put this stuff out in front of me. But I just got another one the other day. It's called Decked. And then it's just basically conversational starter type of things. And then so we yanked 5 cards out of there. And so, like, for example, the one that I just bought, I pulled a card out to see what, there's 4 levels of intensity, right? And then so the one that I pulled out, it says, what do you think more people should know? And I'm like, hmm, I think more people should know about the mile monsters. So, but anyway,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
cool. That's a good way to do it, because the way I do it, I have 21 questions, all stuff that I've thought of randomly, and I put them on the name winner, the name wheel, and then
mm-hmm.
I number 1 through 21, and I shuffle it, spin it. Okay, you get that one, shuffle it, spin it, and that's how they come up.
I'm
But
not
there's a
that
couple of questions that you're going to have that are on the previous show, which I know you haven't heard yet,
yeah,
but um, and you end up getting a lot of the same stuff. And I'm like, man, I'd really like some new questions, but some of these are good,
yeah.
so I like that idea too, because you can pick them
Well,
out.
and then
So this is what you get.
with the entrepreneurial show, there are 5 questions that I asked and I don't know them off the top of my head, but there's 5 questions that I ask the same every time, and that's right after the lightning round, but it's all business related stuff.
Sure.
Uh, like shit, I'm stumped right now, but um, they're all the same because at some point I wanted to make a montage of, you know, this, you know what I mean? And so those 5 questions are the only ones that I asked that are the exact same for everybody. But get to know you questions, yeah, I use different games.
That's a good idea. I'm going to have to. I wrote a note, by the way. I'm taking notes so I don't forget things. And that is one of the things I have taken notes on.
Nice.
Um, Moving on to another question that I had is, y- I am under the impression, and I could be wrong, so this is your chance to clarify that for me and for anybody that doesn't know, but it seems like you're fairly newish to long distance riding. Is that the case or
Oh,
not?
very, very, very new.
Okay.
Not newish, I'm new. So I didn't even know this world was out there, like back in, I don't even know when I did my first iron. Well, the first time, I don't know how I learned about the 1K in a day. Things come across my radar, and I'm thick-skulled, so they got to come across my radar several times before I really get it. And then so I just knew that 1,000 miles in 24 hours. I knew that was a thing. I didn't know anything about it, and
Okay.
I thought that what it was you had to do exactly 1,000 miles in exactly 24 hours. And on my way back from Sturgis in 2020, I did just that. I was like, it was kind of by accident, but kind of by, I was like, I'm going to try to do this. And then so I set my navigation to home. And then so it tracked my miles. And then when I left, right. And then so I was like, I was riding, and I ended up riding. I was out in, oh, I was in West Texas in the middle of the night, and I was just like, I got to get a room. I'm tired. I'm not, going to wipe out. I'm not going to hit any animals. So I was like, but it was hot, and I was like, I'm just gonna get a room, and I'm just gonna take like a 4-hour nap, And then so I did that, and then when I was still kind of foggy in the morning, and then I was like, oh, I blew my schedule, I blew the whole whatever, and then so I'm riding, and then I just keep looking down at my nav, keeping track of the stuff, and I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna actually hit the 24-hour 1,000-mile right on the dot. And then so I pulled over on the side of the road at 1,000 miles, and I waited like 1 minute for the clock to turn over to exactly 24 hours. And I snapped a picture, and I was like, oh, wow, look at that. I did my first 1K in a day. I had no idea anything about it. I was like,
Yeah.
And then so, yeah, I guess, I did, I
When
come
was
across
that?
Iron
When was that, the
20,
20 trip?
yeah, coming back from Sturgis.
Yeah.
And then so I did an iron butt, a certified legit, once I realized what that was kind of about. And at the time, I believe it was in 2021, maybe it was still in 2020, I'm not sure. But at the time I was just like, man, this sucks. This whole documentation thing, this is just not fun at all. How you got to do all this and keep track of your receipts. I mean, I just want to get on my bike and ride. And then so I just kind of put that out of my head. I was just like, whatever. But the riding still stuck, right? I was like, this is still kind of a blast, getting, crossing state lines, and it's just like, oh man, this is really cool. And so never been a camper my whole life. I never camped. I never, you know, I never owned a tent. I never, it was just like, it's just not my thing. I'm like, I'm kind of a spoiled brat. I need to be in the AC, I'm like, I can't sleep if it's not, cool enough. Right. So uh I I mean, I have been camping, but was not on anywhere on my fun list. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this, somebody's dragging me. And so but I dig the long distance thing. So I'm not a millionaire, no, by no stretch, but I do well enough that if I can take the time off, I can spring for a motel, especially, cheapy, $80 motel, $80 a night motel. Right. So
Yeah.
that's been my long distance traveling accommodations, for a good little stretch there. And then, I just started meeting these people, and, long distance, 100,000 miles in 100 days. That came across my radar. Like, as it was happening, I was like, this guy's a flake. There's no way in hell this guy's going to do that. You know what I mean? And as it was happening, he got to, uh, I don't know. He was doing an interview, and he was, he was on and off my radar. Right. And then, somebody else said something about this crazy bastard, Chris Hopper's riding his motorcycle 100 days, and he's doing 1,000 miles every day, or it's coming out to that, and then I was like, yeah, I think I heard about that. I was like, man, that's nuts. So he's still doing that, and then so then the little search form or whatever, and he was at this time that he came back across my radar, he was a little better than halfway through it, and then I was like, I instantly switched from this guy's a flake to, oh, he's definitely going to do it. He's advertising, he's telling people, he's putting it out there to the world. I'm going to do 100,000 miles in 100 days, and he's more than halfway through. He's going to do it, And so I was like, what is this all about? So what is this Hopper fella, and what is going on here? So I just kind of was, you know, I put a lot of miles on my bike without doing crazy long distance stuff. I was just always riding,
Yeah.
and then I did another the ride 1K in a day, a different certification outfit, and a lot easier, a lot less. They're not as critical, I would say, as the IBA. And that's not a slam on either organization, just different. And so that was more my style at that time. And so I did, and they got killer swag. Ramble, he puts that organization on over there, and he's got a tattoo artist that designs the patches every year, and there's just
Yeah.
he's always doing nice stuff. It's just fun stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, I got to get some of that gear. You know what I mean? So I was doing at that time, I was doing more Ride 1Ks certifications than I was 1Ks or Iron Butts. And then so as I'm getting used to that process, I'm just like, well, I guess this isn't really that bad. This isn't that big of a deal, doing the certification thing. And then I kind of got introduced to Spotwalla, and then I got introduced to somewhere along the way, the IBA they started a premier program. And so I jumped on that. And then that is just way more easier. I'm just like, oh yes, okay. So now I've got lofty goals, and it's all kind of, my perspective, and what's fun for me now has changed a lot since I bought that 2020 Harley. So yeah, long distance is very new to me, and but it's definitely in my wheelhouse, I'd say. So
Yeah, for
the
sure.
the whole camping thing is I was super interested in the Hoka, and I was going to do it, but I didn't want to do it on my 2020 because that bike with the 131, it's got a lot of get up and go, but it's also got a big bore kit. It's just got problems, you know what I mean? And it's nothing that I can really say. I'm not slamming anybody or anything. The bike was built really well. It just had some weird things happen along the way, and I'm like, I don't want to do this challenge on a bike that I don't feel confident will make it, you know? And
Yeah.
so I kind of drug my feet on the registration process. And so I was one of the things that pushed me over the edge to buy that CVO. I texted Kim Twister, and I said, hey, I said, it's September. What are the odds if I signed up for the Hoka, what are the odds that I'd get in? Oh, you no problem. You'll get. She goes, it's full. They got a full roster, but they'll put you on a waiting list. People drop out all the time. It's not going to be a problem. And I was like, okay. And then so like as I'm talking to her, I'm looking at somebody else looking at my bike, looking at the CVO to buy it, and I'm like, okay, all right, I gotta let you go. So like then I walked over, and I was like, hey, Daniel, we need to talk numbers on this bike right here. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. You go get you the different bike, So anyways, so that's how all that went down. And so I'm not going to be able to make the Hoka this year because I was too late, and they do have a full roster, and they got a full waiting list and everything else. So, but it's all good. It's all right.
Yeah. No. The other thing that then you being long distance, being a new long distance guy, is you have gotten into the rally scene just a little bit. So you must be
Mhm.
having fun with that. So talk
Oh
about
yeah,
that. How did you get into that?
Hops Rally. Chris Hopper, the guy that we were just talking about with the
Yeah.
100,000 in 100 days, he puts on a rally, and he's this one that was in last November in 2023 was I believe his fifth. Go ahead.
So I want to just point something out for the viewers and the listeners that don't know what we're talking about. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally is one thing, right? Daytona
Yeah,
Bike
yeah,
Week, that motorcycle rally is one thing where, you're going there, there's just a bunch of people hanging out, they're having a good
partying.
time. There's
That's
lots
what
of
I always
stuff to
thought.
buy, there's liquor, there's, everything that makes a rally, right? But when
Yeah.
you talk about the rallying that we are now talking about, I should have you explain that a little bit first, because for the people that don't know what that is, share some of that and then why you got into that. How's that?
So yeah, no, that's probably makes a lot more sense. And yeah, I was the same way. Anytime the word rally came up, I always thought party, and I'm kind of an introvert, and I'm not really much of a rally person, right? And so big crowds and all that stuff, not my scene. So this other kind of rally that I do like, it's like a scavenger hunt, right? It's you are tasked with finding things, and usually how it goes is you get a rally book, and there's every possible way that you can make points in this book. It is impossible to hit everything, so you got to choose based on your riding style what you can accomplish and score the most points that you can do, you know and so everybody's got drastically different styles and different ideas of what it takes to get the big points, and so that's what's so much fun for me about it is it's like it's not, it's you versus other people, but it's kind of really you versus you. You know what I mean? It's like, not only can you, you know, not only is it important that you know how to ride a bike, but it's also kind of important that you can kind of navigate, and you can adjust on the fly if you need be, and things like that. So I didn't really know that these types of rallies existed. And then so again, things come across my radar, and I'm slow to grab onto them. But the IBR, or the IBA, is the Iron Butt Association, and they have a whole big list of different types of certified rides that you can do. They also host a rally every other year, every odd numbered year. And so I'd seen this come. I'm like, what is this IBA rally thing? What is this all about? Like they got a party now or what? So then come to find out, they do this, there's different. You can't just sign. The way I understand it, you can't just sign up for it. You got to be kind of invited. There's different ways to get in the actual IBA rally, but the rally scene that we're now talking about, there's several of these out there. Hops Rally is the best one probably for beginners like myself. And so the first one that I completed was last year. I signed up for the one the year before, and then I had some gear problems, and I wasn't able to finish. And then that bugged the shit out of me too. I mean, that ate at me for a year, Craig.
Really?
I was just like, I didn't say nothing about it to anybody, but I stewed on it because I started something and I didn't finish it, and that drove me bananas. And so I probably bought something to some degree every month for 12 months that was going to change the way that I did a rally. Like sandwich bags. I bought a box of sandwich bags that I keep on my bike because one of the things that happened was I went through this downpour, this wicked flooding downpour, and it shelled out all my gear. Well, my phone was one of those things. You got to take pictures of these stops with your rally flag, right? You normally get a rally flag, and then you got to go to the point of interest. You put your bike in front of the point of interest. You put your flag either on the bike or hold it if you can. Take a picture of all that, and then you got to send it to the rally master, right? And then you go to the next stop. Of course, this is all your pace, you know what I mean? But now my phone shelled out. I don't have any way to take pictures. I don't have any kind of, and then my navigation, my route was in my phone. My GPS tracker, that I had at the time, it was, I'd left the little cover on it, it's open, so water got in there, and I was like a little sandwich bag would have solved all of that. So the reason that my phone shelled out was because I had a small crack in it, and I didn't know that. And so water, because it's a waterproof phone, right? Up to so many meters, and I didn't go swimming with it, but there was a little crack that I didn't know, and so water got in there and glitched me out. So I was like, if I'd have just put it in a little cheap sandwich bag, I would have been able to use it, whatever. So like all these little things that I'm just thinking of, every little what if. Okay, so what if we get into what if we get into rain again? What if we get into this? I got cold gear, I got hot gear, I got I got all this stuff, right? And then so I definitely travel. I do not travel light. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, I got just in case, and blah blah blah, and I got kickstand blocks, and I got blah blah blah. Anyway, so for a year I was stewing on, I will not finish again. And so this last year in November, I did finish. I finished top 10, but
nice.
There was it was just it's just a blast, man. For me, it's you got to plan a route. And so with Hopper's Rally, he gives you the rally book 3 days, 2 days, depending on how feisty he's feeling. You might get it the day before. He doesn't give you a lot of time to study it and put together a plan, right?
Yeah.
And then so this year, I was like, I even like my work people, my employee, I was like, I got everything set up. I'm gonna take this time off. Nobody bother me. Well, my customers didn't get the memo. And so like I'm scrambling last minute so that I can ditch, and I put everything off on the employees, and I'm like, hey, you gotta, take care of these problems for me. And then so I went out to Houston, is where it starts, at the Republic Harley. And then so the night before, everybody's having dinner. And then so I went and had dinner with everybody, and then I went back to the room so I could finish my route. And so, so the next morning, I was ready to go. But yeah, anyways, so there's lots of these different rallies out there. There's, Hopper's Rally. There's a Heart of Texas rally, which I'm signed up for this coming year. I mean, there's several of them out there.
Yeah, no, I've heard of a few, and just they do interest me, but the timing thing, that'd be my excuse not to do it. But
So the
they
heart,
sound very interesting to me.
yeah. So and like the Heart of Texas rally, they have two different versions of it going on at the same time, right? So they have I think a 3 or 4 day, and then they have a 2 day, and they both finish on the same day. They both finish
Oh,
on a Sunday, right? So I mean, I'm sure, of course, it doesn't. I'm sure the scoring is going to be exclusive to each different one, but it's kind of cool that they both wrap up on the same day, and so I'm sure there's going to be some overlap. I'm be interested to see how that works. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun for me.
yeah,
It's just taking that love of riding, and now you got to add something to it. So I'm signed up for the Alder America's Ultimate Long Distance Rider. That's a free thing. And it's mostly you know uh how you say the honor system. Nobody's like it's not like a really intense hey, this isn't right or whatever. But I mean, Ride to Eat is another one. I signed up for that one also. There's a lot of overlap between these. Tour of Honor. There's also Grand Tours, right? So Texas has a Grand Tour, the Motorcycle Grand Tour Texas. And that was I was doing that before anything else. And that's I guess I skipped a step there. So I did the Motorcycle Grand Tour Texas. It's 50 stops all over the state of Texas, and they change every year. Supposed to. Um, you take your rally flag, you go to the point of interest, you take a picture, you submit it to the rally master, and so you get all 50 stops. You get an attaboy. You get a patch, and whatever else. You get 25 of the 50, you get a patch. You get a finisher patch, or you get the 25 finisher patch or the 50 finisher patch. Um, you don't get anything for having the most points. You don't get anything for being first. You know what I mean? So and it's set up like that on purpose because they don't want you to race through it, because there's a lot of
sure.
cool stuff that they want you to see. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, yeah, so I was doing that, and I was like, and this is cool. Me and my brother, we'd go, spend 3 or 4 days, rounding up these stops, and, everything's back road America. So it's really awesome. It's really fun to see these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rally
So
world's pretty cool.
yeah, it sounds like it would be. So I like watching them and seeing what's going on. That's really all I can do from here. um, you talked earlier about this ride with Gavin.
Yeah.
You guys did this all over Texas. You kind of
Mhm.
told us what it was. I think it was like 3,700 miles. You did it in like 8 days.
Mhm.
So of course I was watching that live as it happened. But um, tell us your story here. Like, how did this? I know the story, but I want you to explain it to people. How did this come together for you? Like, how did you end up involved in that?
Sure. So
And what was your
Denver.
side of the story?
So 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 Denver. I met Denver. This is really. I'm going to try not to be overly detailed on this, but it's just kind of interesting how the universe just pulls you in these directions.
Mhm.
So in 2020, I got into when I got my Harley. I started the Setzer Pendants brand, which is our family brand, and it is basically just we're independent minded people, and we're into riding. We're into riding. Our whole family rides. And so I was like, this would be kind of cool to do a little YouTube channel. We call it Such Pendants, and just us riding around, and seeing what we can see. I didn't know jack about nothing. I didn't know. I knew GoPro was an action camera, and that was about as much as I knew. And then so I was like, I got some time, I can figure this out. Whatever. So I was doing some vlogging, and it was fun, and I enjoyed making some, like, especially with my son and my brother and my nephew. It was really a lot of fun making these videos. It was, they're like little time capsules, and the really long-term goal with that was is that I kind of wanted to leave something behind, and for it to keep going in our family, right? So at
Sure.
some point in time, it would be cool if our kids picked up, one of them picked it up and ran with it and whatever. um so I started learning a little bit about videography, and what makes the things work, because I'm a nerd that way. I got to know how things work. And so I realized really quickly that as much as I love to ride, I don't want to watch an hour of somebody riding. I'm like, this is not entertaining, and I've got something better to do than just watch. It's not the same
Yeah.
as being that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I got all this footage, but it sucks. Nobody's going to nobody's going to want to watch this. My great grandkids that haven't even been born yet are going to be like, this is stupid. So I was like, how do you make this interesting? So then I started learning how to tell stories. I joined masterclass, and I'm like, I'm listening to the James Cameron, and I'm like, what makes a story compelling? And then, video editing, how do you do it? And why do, what is B-roll, and what is this, and what does that mean? And why do you cut here? And what does all these things mean? And because I'm a nerd and I got to know these things, I learned them. I learned a lot of them. I'm by no means a professional, but I know enough to know more than the average person, right? And then so as my little vlogging journey was happening and unfolding, I met Denver Woods. He reached out to me and he's like, "Hey man, you want to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Sure." We shot the breeze for a little while, and he's like, "You want to be on my podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, man, no problem." And then so we actually talked. It was pretty funny because we talked for hours the day before the podcast. And then so when I got on his show, I was like, "What do you want to talk about?" It's like we didn't have nothing to talk about. So that was pretty funny, but that's how I met Denver. And we stayed in touch, and solid dude. Everybody loves Denver. Solid dude, and he loves to ride, and is a good guy. And he's like the gatekeeper. It's funny how his show has become like the hub for people meeting each other online. It's really, really cool. And
Yeah.
so I met several people through his show, and through the whole moto vlogging scene, right? And good people. I like to spend my time riding, you know what I mean, not doing reviews or anything like that. And I'm not slamming anybody that does. Right, if you're listening. The the That relationship turned into us staying in touch or whatever. Well, I went with him to see you guys at the Hoka Hay kickoff in
Yeah.
2022. Well, he knew most of everybody because they'd either been on his show or he talked to him in some fashion or another. And I kind of didn't want to like ride his coattails. So I kind of just disappeared. And that's why we probably didn't meet, because I just was like, I'm trying to stay out of this guy's way. You know what I mean? Because that's just how my brain works.
Yeah.
And so I knew Kim from my vlogging friends in Houston. And so Twister, Kim,
Yeah.
she was there, and so she kind of introduced me to a few people, and Hop was there, and at this point I'd known, I think we talked a couple times before then or whatever. And then I got introduced to Riot, but I was pretty easily forgettable considering what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So that whole deal shook out the way that it did, and it was really interesting, and I've just kind of been really nerding out about the Hoka Hay, right? So I guess I don't know, it was the beginning of 2023, January or February. Riot calls Denver, and he says, "Hey, we got this really awesome ride that we're going to do for one of our kids, one of our heroes, Gavin." He said he's a boy that lives in Schertz, Texas, and what we're going to do is we're going to take him. Me and Hopper are going to take him to every Harley dealership in Texas. We're going to put him on the back of our bike, and he's actually going to ride with us. Thing is, I need some kind of way to record this. And I don't know, Jack. He goes, we got GoPros. I mean, we take selfies with our phones and stuff like that, but it would be really nice to have somebody follow behind us and video this, and maybe we get enough footage together and and so like Denver's like, I know the guy. I know the guy that you need to know, and he was like, Jason lives, such a penance lives, in the same city as Gavin,
Isn't
and
that
then so
crazy?
he's like, it's that was kind of like, it was really weird, right? So the looking back, the universe is bringing all this together. It's just really, really cool, or God, or whatever it is that you believe. So Denver calls me right after, and he goes, "Hey, I might have volunteered you something that you might not have wanted to do, but this is what happened. He goes, Riot called me and he says this is going on. And then, like, before Denver could even say, I was like, I'm in. What do I got to do? Like, what was it? What is it? What I need to do? And then so I was like, yes, give him my contact information, or, he already did or whatever. And so, like, a couple of days had went by and I'm like, hey, Denver, did you he hasn't called me. I mean, I'm an offended little schoolgirl. I'm like, is he gonna call me or what? And so finally he's like, no, I say, yeah, send it. So Riot calls me and I was like, listen, I'm in. And at this point, you kind of got to kick me out. You know what I mean? If you don't want me, because I love this. And I would love to be able to help any way that I can. I said, I'm very self-sufficient. You won't need to be waiting on us. You don't need to, you don't need to buy our gas, or you don't need to pay for our rooms. You don't even know we're there. Or know that I'm there. The first conversation, it
Yeah.
was just me at the time. And then so he's like, we just kind of hit it off, like, hey, this sounds like this is going to work. I was like, this is what I'm not into. I'm not into gathering everybody around and everybody saying cheese and like saying, hey, can you redo what you just did? And, hey, everybody, I'm not into staging. I want to capture things as they happen, and I'm going to miss some stuff and I'm going to get some stuff. And, hopefully we can bring it together and make you feel like you were there. And so he's like, perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping for, and he goes, I didn't want to put this out there on the internet because I didn't want to have a whole bunch of people be like, yeah, and it'd be a circus. And so I was like, oh, I ain't gonna tell nobody. So it's, perfect. So we had a few meetings, a few Zoom calls, the whole little team. And then Twister, I don't remember if Twister was from the jump going to go, or if but she, it was the three of them and then me. And then so I don't know, meeting 2 or 3, I said, it sounds like I would be able to bring my son. Again, no cost to y'all. I'll, he and I are taken care of. I'll make sure I'll pay for his. I said, you won't even know we're there. I said, but he's really into photography right now, and I know that he would do a killer job. And it would be really helpful for me to have, a helper. And so he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Whatever. And then so his underlying concern was, Hopper, Twister, hey guys, can these guys ride? Because like, I don't, it'd be great if you can take pictures, but that ain't gonna do me no good if they can't keep up. And Kim was like, they can ride. And so that was made apparent pretty soon on as we were running through stoplights and heading to our first stop. But
because they were green, of course.
Yeah. So motorcycle lanes and all that stuff, it was all good. But yeah, I mean, so I got this opportunity to be a part of something that I would not have been had I not, in this weird roundabout way, got into starting a YouTube channel and playing around with buttons and levers, right?
Sure.
So yeah, so we followed him around, and we took a lot of footage and a lot of video, and putting together a doc. So here's something that's kind of funny. Riot, he, like, the whole time he was like, we'll just do whatever we can with the footage, right? I was like, okay. So like the first day, in the first hour, I heard this word that I'd never heard before from him. And that word was, we're going to put this documentary together. And I'm looking over at Chase and I'm like, where's the film crew? What's he talking about what's this documentary? What do you think? Documentary, And then so I realized he was saying that the stuff that we're doing, is going to be the documentary. And I'm in my head, I'm like, oh shit. there's no way I can, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. I'm like, we're all saddled up and we're about to leave, and he's talking about documentary. I'm like, oh my God. So I was like the first time that Chase and I had alone, I was like, hey, did you heard him say documentary, right? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I'm going to ask you, what was that all about? And I was like, because that's us, it is. So anyways, it was just kind of funny how that came up. The first time I met Honor, she asked me, we were sitting down to eat, and she goes, so how did you get into making documentaries? I said, I met Riot.
That's awesome.
That's how that happened.
So we heard you were on a podcast recently. I think it was the V Twin Life. It was you, Denver, and Bry. And you said, or you made the comment that this thing is going to be done by the end of the year. But I
Mhm.
notice we're in a new year. And then as I think back on that, you didn't say what year. So
Yeah. I
when
also
can
said,
we expect this thing?
at the end of the year. The end of the year, just, just hold your. I also said I was going to go ride my Harley, do a 1K in a day in shorts and a shirt,
Yeah, but you
and I
did
did.
that.
I did,
Yeah,
and
you did
and
that.
this documentary will be ready at the end of the year.
Okay. I noticed, I think it was the Stubborn Goat Facebook page. So everybody knows if you're new watching this on YouTube, these shows are recorded and they're recorded in advance. So we're, I don't know, somewhere early January. And when this show comes out, as of, I think it was today. So if you look back and go, oh my God, this was been out for a long time. Well, today there was a documentary, not like a trailer about this documentary posted on the Stubborn Goat page. And so it's got to be, at least you have the trailer done.
Yeah,
So, and that was, how long was the trailer? Like a minute and a half or something. So
yeah, it was.
I imagine the
Well,
rest will be done by the end of the year.
yeah, should be. Yeah. So yeah, the funny thing about the trailer, right? So we did a Monster Monday, and uh,
Christmas
Riot and
Day.
yeah, Riot and Hopper and Kim, Kim not so much, but like, you know, Hopper and I don't talk much, and when it is, it's like, how's the documentary coming? And so I'm like, it's going great, and so anyways, I was teasing Riot, and I said, hey, I said, we gotta put this out there, and like, it's, ready to, like, we're gonna air it on Monster Monday. And he's like, oh, I love it. So I sent him the intro, and I was like, just air that. So we try to word it to where it was like, if you want to watch the documentary, tune into Monster Monday on Christmas, like everybody's Christmas gift.
But you
And
never
so
even said that. You never
yeah, it was,
said the documentary, but I believed it was coming.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
why do we have a 2-hour Monster Monday? And what's all this? You're alluding to this thing, but I got to tell
Uh,
you, the trailer that'll hook you. You can
yeah.
see what's really cool is you can see, Riot's this so-called big badass biker guy, right? You can see what this means to him in the trailer.
You
And
know,
that's it,
I'm
it totally changes your perspective of everything Mile Monsters when you watch that thing.
and what you just said right there is the exact thing that I got to experience while I was there riding with them. There's a quote from Martin Luther King. Um, let's see, I'm probably going to butcher it, right? But it's can you hear that? No.
No,
No. Darkness can't drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate can't drive out hate. Only love can do that. Right now,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm nowhere near. I'm not even trying to say that the similarities of hate and everything like that is what is applicable here, but the love part is always what stuck with me, right? And to love people, outside of, just strangers, just loving strangers. You know what I mean? It's somewhere that our world needs to get to. And it sounds, hippie and love the world and all this stuff, but you know, being there and watching Riot, Hopper, and Twister, these three people love this kid like their own is just amazing to witness. Just amazing to be there in the presence of such selflessness of, basically strangers caring about other strangers, right? And I mean, they're not strangers at this point, you know what I mean? But they started out
right.
strangers. You know what I mean? And the I'm really glad you said what you did about the trailer and about you can see the love, because through the show you will be able to see a lot more of that. And I think it is just a very inspiring, very awesome story, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. We were sitting on the couch, and it hits you kind of like, oh, it's a wave of emotion, really, um,
Mhm.
when you watch just the trailer. And and I might not be verbatim, but I'm pretty close. Renee looked over at me and she said, "Oh, what?" She said, "I get it now."
Really?
Yep. And it's you've if it's anything like that, I can't wait for till the end of the year.
Listen, yeah. If this tells you anything about me, right? I don't ever brag on my work. I never hype anything up. I'm always very conservative with things, like even with my business. You know what I mean? I always just let my product speak for itself. You know, and most of the time, people are happy. You know, and so it's been successful. Um, Anything that I do, you know, you try to do the best that you can. You can. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. When I cut, um, there's so that how this is coming together is I'm cutting the story, and then I'm having my son come through and clean up audio, you know, equalize, you know, do some graphics, do some effects, stuff like that. The story is mine, you know, and then the flash is him. I think is probably the easiest way to say this, right? And so there was two major parts of this documentary. I can't believe I'm saying this documentary. Okay? There's two major parts of this documentary where I sat back and I was like, I really don't give a shit if nobody likes it because I love it. And I am so proud of what this is turning into. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And so I've never really, I mean, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And I don't say that. I don't get like that. So, I, you know, I got a lot of friends that, you know, they try to hype up their crappy work, you know, and I was like, dude, that's crappy work. You know, it's like, oh, you're going to love it. And I'm like, I don't, you know what I mean? This has just been, it's just been incredible. And it was really daunting whenever I first started, you know, whenever I sat down to my computer and I get nestled in and I get all of my files ordered and categorized and everything, I've got over 2 terabytes of data. There's over 4,700 files. There's over 120 hours of footage that we're parsing through, looking through, messing with, going back through, changing up, you know, oh,
Yeah.
can't use this, you know. And then so what I did was I gave Riot and I gave Hopper each a GoPro, you know, and I had the settings set the way that I wanted them. And then so I was like, look, he's going to open up to y'all more than he's going to open up to me. You know, I mean, I'm going to chase this little kid around with a camera as best I can. But, you know, whenever you have a moment or whatever you're feeling or whatever, all you got to do is hit this button, turn the camera on, and, you know, get what you can. You know what I mean? Any time that you want to ask him a question, if you can, just get on camera. You know, it's not a big deal. And so they got some killer stuff, you know, because you know, he just opens up to them. He loves them. He loves those guys, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so you know, I can put a camera in Gavin's face and be like, tell me what you think about this, you know, and he's like, that's, you know, and then
Good.
Hopper can do it. And then Hopper, you know, and he opens up to Hopper, you know, he's like,
Yeah.
oh, this has been so much fun, you know, whatever. And so I'm like, you know, whenever I started going through some of this stuff, I was like, all right, you know, because it was very daunting whenever I was going through all these files and going through all this stuff, and then I'm a kind of a perfectionist, right? And so I'm looking at some of the quality of the footage that I got, and then I was a little disappointed in some things, and then I was talking with and I was just, it took me much longer to get going than I wanted to, just because I was so afraid of failure, and I was so afraid that, you know, this is just not, it was just, it was a little, it's a little overbearing. It was a little, not overbearing, overwhelming. And so I was just like, all right, okay, all right, I got this, you know. And then you start going through the footage, and then along the way, it just kind of revealed to me that this has got absolutely nothing to do with the picture quality, you know, the noise, the artifacts, the blown out audio here, the wind noise there, the whatever, you know what I mean? And then as I'm watching, reliving this story through video, you know, and as I'm trying to cut these days together and make this, you know, something that's, you know, enjoyable to watch, that just all faded away. And I'm just like, this story is coming together so beautifully. I love it.
Good.
So
Well, we all can't wait to see the final project.
yeah, yeah. At the end of
Well,
the
but
year.
the end of the year can't be here fast enough. That's all I can say. So that's like I don't like I have some other questions, but we're already way longer than I thought we would be, and we still have 5 more to go. Is there
Okay.
anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to as a YouTube professional coaching the
Oh,
blind?
I don't. Yeah. Well, I mean, coaching the blind. That's about the only thing I could coach. Um, I don't know, man. I just, live life. We talked about personal development earlier, and there's there's something interesting that I think is, I would say, important for people to understand. Um, you can't, you cannot possibly think that at this moment in your life, whatever moment that is, it doesn't matter. You could be 80 or you could be 8. You can't think at this moment in your life that you have all the tools and that you have all the information and all the knowledge that you do not need any help. And what I mean by that is like it's a should be like a constant improvement. Jim Rohn used to say, how big does a tree grow? It doesn't grow up until this thing and say that's good enough. A tree continues to grow until it doesn't grow until it's dead. I mean, that's,
Yep.
and so I think I think that is really important because there's a there's a part of, there was a section of life for me where I just kind of felt stagnant, and a lot of that revolved around, you know, you get to a certain amount of success and you get to a certain amount of comfort, and you don't feel the need to grow, or you don't feel the need to push maybe as hard as you did or should. And I think that, I think everybody could learn from that. I think that everybody could, you know, you you could always do better. You know what I mean? And that's not the arrogant coach that, is like, yeah, you need to shave more time off your lap. But I mean, there's always better. That doesn't mean that you can't enjoy what you've done, you know. But anyways, I think that
Yeah.
I think that that's something that gets overlooked a lot. And people's defense, it might be overlooked because, you're busy dealing, you're busy living life. Life throws things at you, all the time and in all different directions. And then you kind of get out of patterns of growth. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Absolutely. That's a
you know,
great way to put it, is you just keep getting beat up and you get out of that pattern. That's
mhm.
that's a great way to look at
So nobody gets overweight
it.
overnight, and nobody loses weight overnight. Nobody becomes a genius overnight. Nobody, well, I mean, there's some of you punks that are born with great genes, but my point though is just like, it's a continuous growth. I was thinking the other day, most people think of a stock chart, how it goes up, and then down and up and then down and up, right? Life isn't just from point A up straight up. It has it retracts. You have your quote unquote bad years, if that's what you want to call them. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It isn't just this great rainbows and butterflies all the way up to the top, and the top meaning, death or ripe old age or whatever. But the thing that I think that people don't really grab onto is that whenever life comes back down a little bit, you're still way ahead here than you were way down here where you started. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Even if you have to start over in life, you're not really starting over unless you just did not remember a damn thing over the last 30 years. You're not starting over. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep. You
So,
know, on that note, uh, you saw it. Everybody saw it. Everybody on Facebook seen it. There's a post that says, "If all you did was survive 2023, I'm proud of you." Right? You've seen it, right? That quote actually pisses me off. And I've commented on a few. And it's like, if all you've done is survive it,
yeah,
you
you've wasted
lost.
12 months.
Yep, you
Yeah.
wasted it. You should
That's
have
12
learned
months of
from
your
it.
life you'll get
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. I mean, you made it. Kudos, right? That's so let's celebrate that victory. But if all you did was survive it and you didn't learn a damn thing, that's your fault.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that it's
you
funny
know,
you say
and
that because I've seen that post recently, and I've seen it a bunch recently, and I'm like, I am not on board with that one at all.
I don't know where my mindset changed, right? It's just gradual along the way as everything else, there's a couple key spots in my life where I was just like, this light went off for me and I was like, I got to change some things. I used to be a really angry person. And I got that from my dad. And so, that one thing is something that was the first thing that I was like, I want to change this about myself, and because I could see it affecting my family, I could see it affecting my kids and my wife at the time, and I'm like, y'all think of me this way, and then like they didn't want to answer me because they didn't want me to get pissed off, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
so I mean, it was like, I'm going to change this about myself, and it didn't happen overnight, and I had a lot of relapses, if you will. Um, there was it was not an easy process, because everything that I've known up to this point in my life has been that, you don't get your way, you throw something against the wall, or you punch your hole, you punch, whatever, and so I don't know. That's the whole it doesn't happen overnight thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For me,
absolutely.
like growth is a steady process. You know what I mean? Even when you hit the retracts and whenever you have the fails or whatever you want to call them. And so, yeah, whenever somebody says, if you just survived, you did good, you won. There's a quote that I like that says, I think it might have been by Muhammad Ali. I think maybe it's probably by somebody a lot more profound, and maybe he just said it. But if a man, and I'm going to butcher it really bad, but if a man thinks the same as he did 20 years ago, a man's wasted 20 years, something along those
That was
lines.
Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
Was it? And
Mhm.
so it's you hear all the time, oh, you're different. You've changed. Well, God, I hope so. I've got more data now. I should change. I should have a different perspective. If I have the same exact viewpoint as I did 30 years ago, my God. Now, don't get me wrong. Your character's got to be the same. You got to be a good guy. You got to be, a good person. That shouldn't change. But it's like, you know, uh, if you can't, the world has got a lot more gray as I got older, not just in my face, but things that used to be black and white, man, I'm living on a world of gray now. It's crazy.
That's funny.
So
No,
anyway,
that's all great stuff. Absolutely love it. And what's I don't know if you're a believer or not, divine intervention, God, whatever you believe,
mhm.
your 5 questions.
Oh, you already got him.
Oh yeah, I do this before because otherwise I got to
Oh,
sit here and do it, right? But
yeah.
no, the very first question. So we're going to go right into that. Question number 1 is, what have you changed your mind about in the last few years and why?
Oh, what have you changed your mind about?
Kind of fits what we've been talking about here for the last few
Yeah,
minutes.
I mean, there's and this is the over analytical part of my brain, right? I have problems with these questions, but there's and I think I heard you ask this to somebody, and I was like, what have I changed? Anyways, um, more than 3 years ago, it was my anger. That was the first thing. That was the first thing that I set out to change about myself. Um, what have I changed my mind about in the last 3 years? I mean, several things. Mile monsters. Hell, as far as like I didn't know anything about mile monsters, and then seeing it online, and then being a part of it, like with the goats tour. Um, I got a really good and probably rare opportunity to actually see the real life part of Mile Monsters versus what you see online. Because years of the social media game, man, people are just different people. Usually,
Yes.
Denver, he's the same cat. You talk to him online, you talk to him in real life, he's the same guy. The times that we've talked online, the times that we've talked on, the same. But a lot of people, they put on this show, they put on this, thing, and it's just gimmicky, right? So it's like I kind of take social media personalities with a grain of salt. But Mile Monsters and their outfit and what they do, that you know because I go right into pessimism. You know what I mean? Just like when I first saw Hop. Oh, this cat's gonna do 100,000. That's sure he is. you know, and then as it starts to happen, you change. It's like, oh wow, okay. So I would say Mile Monsters. And you know,
And you even answered the whys because you were there, you were a part of it.
mhm.
Question number 2. What topic
Well,
would you
and
speak about? Oh, go ahead. Let me not
well,
cut you off.
and so being there a part of it, right? That's being able to see it. I had a really pretty favorable opportunity to see it, but the the that Riot is a genuine person. Hopper is genuine. They're not. There's a meme where people are taking a selfie as they're giving like they're giving people free clothes or something like that, and they're making sure they get a
Yeah.
camera. That's not who these people are. You know what I mean? And the double edged sword here is that for people to understand and see what Mile Monster is about, you got to take the selfie. You got to show people that you're doing this. You know what I mean? But they're not doing it because hey, look at me. Hey, look what we're about. I mean, they're doing it because they love these kids. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And seeing that genuine, they're genuine people. And that's awesome. And that's awesome to see in real life whenever you don't really know if that's really how it's going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. It's funny because you talk about Hop and Riot. They do a lot that we don't see. I
Yes.
happen to be pretty close with Riot. He's one of my, if I need to vent about something, he's one of those people I call. You'd never guess that seeing him on social media.
Yeah.
Hop, you mentioned that he doesn't talk much to you. He don't talk much to anybody. Yeah, that's the way he is. I mean, he's a great guy. If I have
Mhm.
a question or if he has a question, like we'll talk, but he's very busy.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's funny you mentioned that earlier. But yeah, with the kids,
Yeah.
they're not putting on a
Genuine.
show. Some people
Yeah.
put on a show. They do not put on a show at all.
Right.
So
I
it's
mean,
cool.
Hop's going to be riding with Yavin tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when this is going to be released, so it already happened. But I
Well,
mean,
whenever this releases, he's probably going to ride with them tomorrow
yeah,
because he
that's
does
very
that.
true. You don't see all these rides on social media. He's coming out here to pick the kid up to go for a ride because he loves that kid. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And to see that kind of sincerity from people, especially bikers, is well, I shouldn't have said that. Not especially bikers, but bikers get a bad rap. Yeah, I think.
Yes. Yes.
They have been some of the most genuine people I've met. So I wish I wouldn't have said it like that. But
Well, no,
the
but
sincerity.
it gives you an opportunity to make sure that the people that listen to the show, they're all motorcyclists, so they get it. But
Yeah.
if somebody happens to watch it because they know you and they just want to see what's up, or they're friends of mine on Facebook and they just log in to support me, you
Mhm,
know, that's a thing though. Like since the 70s, TV media
mhm.
um, has always portrayed the bad guy as the motorcyclist.
Yep.
The good guy's never been the guy on the motorcycle or rarely is. So
Right.
that's just kind of ingrained in everybody's, thoughts
Mhm.
process going in. Once you get in, once you know most of the riders, that's very much not the case. Most.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Most.
yeah.
I mean, you got some hardcore ones out there for sure. There's no getting around that.
Yeah, there's a
But
few. Okay. Question number 2. What
great.
topic would you speak about if you were asked to give a TED talk on something outside of your main area of expertise?
Mile monsters. DMD. I'm using those three interchangeably, and I guess I shouldn't. I think that I would probably try to talk about DMD, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And I didn't know anything about it until I started riding with the Mile Monsters or started getting involved with the Mile Monsters. And Duchenne's was a really, really tough word for me to try to pronounce, and I just kept saying, "Oh, it's DMD," and I didn't mean to like downplay the word. It was just like I didn't want to do it a discredit by not knowing how to pronounce it, you know. And so,
Yep.
but anyways, yeah, I would try to give a TED talk on Duchenne's muscular dystrophy.
Is it Duchenne's or is it Duchenne's?
Here in Texas, it's Duchenne's.
Okay. Well, y'all say it wrong. No.
Yeah, yeah. Duchenne. You gotta accentuate the E on the end. Duchenne's.
I think
Is that how it's
I could be wrong. No, I thought it was Duchenne's. I could
Duchenne's?
be wrong. So,
I was saying like
we'd have
golfer.
to go to
I
the
was
experts on that one, which I'm not.
yeah.
Which is why you're
I,
going to give
I'm
a TED talk on it.
I'm glad to be able to get to this level of pronunciation that I've got because
Yeah,
before it
exactly.
was just, know it starts with a D, and it's bad stuff, you know.
Okay, so question number 3. Sometimes you got to think about this one. What is something that is really weird or unsettling that happens to you on a regular basis?
Oh, this is easy. Um, I am frequently told, from people in all walks of life, Jason, I've never seen this before. Whatever it is, you know, I could take a computer into the Geek Squad. I've never seen this happen before. Might take my Harley into Harley. Well, I've never seen a lifter do this before. I can take my. I had back surgery. I had a spinal fusion done, and the stitches that they use are like Kevlar. You know, they're basically indestructible. And I say basically because I broke one. And so when I broke one, I developed a hematoma, and then I had to go back to the hospital. And the initial surgery, the fusion and all that went great. It was terrific. It was flawless. I get home. It was like day 2 or 3 of being home. I go to sit down on the couch. I broke a stitch. You know, it didn't hurt. It was really unsettling, you know, but I go back to the hospital. The doctor's like, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" Right. So, long story short, they ended up cutting me back open to drain the hematoma because they couldn't get to it because it already started to coagulate. Anyways, when he opened me back up, he realized the reason I was bleeding is because I broke a stitch. And he said, "I've never seen it before. Nobody's ever done it before. And I will never be able to forget you because you're the only person who's ever done this." And I'm like, I didn't mean to do it. You know what I mean? But this happens to me all the time. And so I've actually started pointing this out. And my son, he picks up on it all the time too now, where he's like, you know, we go somewhere and, you know, like I could be getting a reservation at a motel. And they're like, "Well, that's odd. You know, I can't seem to pull up your account information. I've never seen this before." You know, whatever. It's just, I get that all the time. So that's an easy one.
That's funny. Okay, so question number 4. This is a good question for you too when I saw it come up. When you think of the word successful, who is the
Mhm.
first person who comes to mind and why?
Mm. I'm kind of an Elon Musk fanboy. Um, so I would say Elon Musk. And you know, a lot of people are kind of jaded on the guy. Um, I I I I think he's got a great story, and you can pick it apart and you can dissect it, and you can say he's a fraud, or you can listen to how I tell it and take it as that. And so, you know, whenever the financial crisis hit, he was already a millionaire. You know, he had developed and sold PayPal, among a couple other things. And so it was like, I watched some kind of documentary on him, and then so he was like, you know, whenever I first hit my first million, it was he sold something to Compact Computers, you know, and then he was like a kid, you know. I mean, actually, he actually did sell something when he was a kid, but yeah, I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, my point is like, you know, he made his first millions batch of millions, and he's like, well, you know, I always wanted an island. You know, he's like, I got enough money to buy the island, but I don't have nothing to, you know, I don't have no money to do anything with it, right? So he's like, so I take all that money and I put it into something else, you know, and then, you know, then I sold that business, and then now I got enough money to buy the island and maybe a house, but I don't have, you know. So it was just kind of a funny story. The thing that I thought was just impressive, um and why I see him as a successful person, is during the financial crisis, and I'm probably going to screw up a couple little minor details, but don't pay attention to that. During a financial crisis, Tesla and space, well, Tesla was just completely out of money. Um, they they were, you know, they were struggling. They couldn't figure, you know, they didn't know how they were going to get through the end of the week. And then so they had raised money through all the different sources, you know, all the funding and all the different stuff that millionaires do and how they do it, whatever. And then so his money guy says, "Elon, we don't have enough money to make it through the end of the week." He goes, "We got to have X amount of millions of dollars or whatever, blah blah blah, in order to get to this next benchmark, in order to get paid, basically." And then so Elon says, "I'll figure it out." And so the next day he calls a meeting, and he says, I got the funding. And so they go to the meeting, or he goes to the meeting, and they said, well, what's going on? And he says he raised so many, tens of millions of dollars. And they're like, where did, we turned over every stone, how did you, he says, I've liquidated everything that I've owned. Everything that I own, everything is, I sold it, and that's where the money's coming from. I'm all in. And so he could have easily just walked away a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But what's really impressive and in my mind successful about Elon Musk is that money is a tool for that man more than it is a status symbol. He doesn't care about money. And so I think that people really underestimate that about him. It's just like a wrench. It just doesn't mean anything to him. He sold all of his houses. You know what I mean? He doesn't, he likes flashy things. Don't get me wrong. And I'm talking like, like I know the guy, right? But he's the idea of success to me. Now there's some shit there's some shady shit that people will point out or whatever, and if you are or not into electric vehicles, you're going to point that out or whatever. And I'm not interested in having that conversation. The guy could sell widgets for all I care. Just his mindset and how he approaches stuff. He got into SpaceX by accident. He was he was he didn't have any ambition to build rockets. He got into it because it was like a shortcut to his ultimate goal. You know what I mean? Like it's just fascinating how he approaches problems, because there's a lot of similarities that I see in myself. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm nowhere near his level of thinking, but the straightest line from A to B is usually always a straight line, and he seems to be pretty masterful at doing that. So
yeah, for sure.
He's the guy that I think of success. Sorry, I didn't mean to drag that one out.
Hey, part of the question was why. Question number 5. Now another fitting question. Morning rituals. What does the first hour of your day look like?
Oh, okay. So right now, as of, let's tell you, the 4th, January 4th, the 3rd, whatever, as of the new year, the very first hour of my day consists of the minute that I know that I'm awake. I have hypothyroidism. So the very minute that I know that I'm awake and that it's time to get up, I wake up. I don't use an alarm. I wake up. I take my medication. I haul ass into the shower. I shower, and then I do all of my stuff in the shower, right? So like I gotta brush my teeth and all the stuff. It's like everything is in the shower, so it's
To
all
be
water
efficient and fast. Yep.
Yeah. Yes, efficiency. That's kind of a thing of mine. Jump in the shower. That's usually a 10-15 minute deal. Get dressed, and I'm usually trying to haul ass to the office. Get here as fast as I can. And then when I get here, I'm making coffee. And I'm sorry, I don't have any Jenny's blend. It is Dylan's blend that I'm making. And while I'm making,
we got to end this. Sorry.
Well, to be fair, I have not tried Jenny's blend yet. But while my coffee is brewing, I am filling out my gratitude journal. And so this is a remarkable 2. And so it is changed a lot about me. And so this device right here, I use daily. I hate handwriting, and I hate to write. I hate to write stuff. This device actually makes me want to write more. It's weird. It's the weirdest thing. But there's a template that I downloaded, and it's a gratitude journal. And so I really focus. I try to be very purposeful, very intent on the things that I write down in that journal, and what my day looks like. And so, there's some affirmations in there. There's the things that I'm grateful for. There's things that I'm a real dear friend of mine. His son is just hit the news. He shot and killed somebody. we know it to be self-defense, but it's just a rough story, how it's unfolding in the news. You know what I mean? It's never pleasant, and people, the trolls. And so, like, one of the things is just like, I'm grateful that kid's alive. You know what I mean? Because it could have very easily went the other way. Things like that. And so, like, being a part of this DMD community the way that I am through Mile Monsters, I am beyond grateful. And it took me, being a part of this community to see this. I am beyond grateful that my son does not have to deal with, or had not had to deal with, the things that these boys have to deal with. I'm grateful that I personally, as a parent, did not have to deal with the things that these kids' parents have to deal with, you know? And so, like, I write that stuff down because it's so easy to take that stuff for granted. You know what I mean? And so, because of how grateful I am that that's not part of my life, I'm kind of making it part of my life, if that's some kind of weird thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so yeah, and that usually takes about an hour because it's a 20-minute drive. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great way to start the day.
So
it's hard to
it
start
used to
off
be
negative
exercise.
when that's how when you're doing that.
Well, yeah. And so it used to be exercise. It used to be smoothies. It used to be a lot of different things, and all these things worked to the purpose that I use them for. This season of my life, it's intent and gratitude is how I start my day.
Awesome. So give us your last final parting words for the show.
I appreciate the invite. I appreciate you having me on. I'm grateful. I'm full of gratitude knowing you and getting to know you. This whole community, not just Mile Monsters, but this whole online biking community, motorcycle community. It crosses all these different worlds, kind of cross over, and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Where can we follow you? I know it's Setzer Pendants, but give us all your socials, and if any of my listeners can find you, follow you, it'll be entertaining. Sure. But tell us where.
It's usually it's just Setzer Pendants usually everywhere, even on Facebook. However, these days, since Mile Monsters, I'm interacting more on Facebook in my personal profile as Jason Setzer. I'm pretty generous with the accepting friend request. If I get a friend request and I see that, if I see that they're a friend with you and a friend with Hopper, I'll accept it. You know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, this isn't going to be somebody from India trying to sell me something. Usually that's not the case. Sometimes it is, but so I'm usually pretty generous with the friend friend requests. Cool. I don't really have any kind of filter, so I kind of say, I try not to be on social media as much these days, but because of Mile Monsters, it's kind of drug me back in because there's just like stuff that I'm constantly doing. And with that, I'll say the Monster K that's coming up, I volunteered to be tattooed and tased, and I didn't even bring that up today. And so if we raise
you're an idiot. So
I was telling that story to somebody. I was like, I said, I first reached out to Riot and I was like, hey, I got this idea. Do it. That's awesome. I love it. Do it. And I was like, hold on, let me tell you all the details. Don't need them. Great idea. Get tased. I love it. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, I was like, because the trauma thing went through my mind, and with the kids, you know what I mean? I was like, it's all good and fun games and all. For anybody that doesn't know, I volunteered to be tattooed and tased at different money intervals of my fundraising up until June for the Monster K. So I first reached out to Riot and he was all in. She's like, yeah, I love it. Do it. And then I reached out to Craig and he's like, Jason, it's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. It's dumb. It's stupid. It's not good. This is not a good. I would do something else. There's lots of different things that you can do. There's this that could go wrong. There's that could go wrong. This doesn't make any sense. And it's all that I sent you a screenshot of Riot. It said, and you're like, well, I mean, I guess if Riot says it's okay, it still doesn't make any sense to me.
I have made it very obvious. I am not on board with this.
Yeah, however, my girlfriend appreciates your support. She doesn't. She's
However,
not.
I grew up at the racetrack, and when you're a true race fan, you never want
Mhm.
to see, you don't want to see the crashes. You're there for the
Right.
racing.
Right.
But if a crash happens, you sure as hell don't want to miss it.
You're
So
gonna lie.
I'm not on board at all, but
But
I'm
I will
not
be
going to
there.
miss it.
I don't blame you. It's got to be fun. There. I was worried about being able to raise that. 10 grand is a lot of money. I raised 2 grand last year, and I gave away $1,000 worth of prizes, and so I was worried about being able to raise that kind of money. And then there's been several people already. They're like, I don't think I'm going to fundraise. I'm just going to send my people to you. It's like, oh,
I don't
I
think you
didn't think about
realize
that.
what you got yourself into. And I think I pointed that out in the beginning also. I said, there's one
Yeah,
variable here that you're not thinking about. And you went, oh, shit.
yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah. What are the odds? What are the odds of that happening? Here we are. It was like
They're,
day
they're pretty
two.
good.
Yeah, I think we're just going to send all our money over to you. Oh, okay. So, anyways, yeah, there's that.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on board. I appreciate our friendship as well. Folks, that's it. If there's a guest you'd like me to have on the show, let me know. I'll see what I can do. And if you like what you're hearing, of course, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You can follow these adventures on Facebook or Instagram by looking for The Real Wild Ass. Of course, I am Wild Ass Craig. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. And of course, Iceman, thank you.